Hi, welcome to another edition of the Gun Writer TV. Today we're going to be talking about this horrible shooting down in Punta Gorda. I have to start by saying this has bugged all three of us on a lot of different levels. We all support law enforcement. It's probably the most difficult job there is, most difficult job I've ever had. But I've heard from local, state, federal, and a couple territorial officers who said this is something we should talk about, this is something we should address. In case you've missed it, 73-year-old retired librarian Mary Knowlton was shot and killed last week by Punta Gorda officer Lee Coel. She was involved in some type of force-on-force training where they were trying to familiarize members of their Citizens Academy. This was a shoot, no-shoot drill. Why they're doing that with civilians, brother, I don't know. At some point, Officer Coel pointed a revolver at her. We've been told it's his revolver that he uses to train his canine. It was supposed to be full of blanks. They weren't blanks. He fired several times and she was struck and killed. Terrible tragedy, wrong on about every single level. I have a huge issue with pointing a real gun at someone and calling it training. There's just no way that is why we have blue guns. Mike, what's your take, brother?
Pointing a real gun in training, I mean, I've never done it in the years that I've done training. I just don't know why you need to put a 73-year-old through a live active shooter thing like that. I mean, a Citizens Academy, I don't know why you'd need to keep it real. I mean, even if you were just watching something like that.
It's not like she's going to go take doors.
You're going to take a 73-year-old retired librarian, grandmother, awesome lady, and point a gun at her and pull the trigger, blanks or not. Why?
I don't know. It's not like she's training to be on their SWAT team.
Right, exactly.
It's not like she's going to go take down doors.
We do training all the time, and I use a blue gun if I'm pointing it at somebody. Or we'll take the slide completely off, and it'll just be the frame of the gun.
Right.
Why don't you? I mean, it's so easy to armchair quarterback. We weren't there, but it's just common sense safety. Why wouldn't you check before you pulled that trigger? Are these blanks? Why wouldn't you double check? Why wouldn't you triple check?
Why wouldn't you use a simunition gun, a blue gun, something? I have never heard of this. I would never have done it if I was that officer and I was ordered to do it. I would have refused it. That would have been refusing an illegal order, which every police officer and soldier can do. Legally, Jeff, what's your take on this?
Well, obviously,
go ahead.
There's just a lot of issues that went wrong with the situation. I mean, of course, when you start just from the standpoint of safety, we were all taught, I took Mike's class, everybody's taught you never point a real gun at somebody unless you intend to shoot them with it. I know there's the fake blue guns and the fake red guns. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of things going on in the news today, and there's a lot of debate about when cops shoot people and when they shouldn't shoot people. So I don't know if this was some sort of a outreach to the community to show them it's not as easy as it seems to be on, YouTube videos or whatever. But you still have to have common sense when you're going to try and do those kind of things. I don't know what happened here. I don't know all the facts. I don't know every single thing that happened. But the fact of the matter is, if you're having citizens coming off the street, you're using a real gun and somebody ends up dead, there's probably about 17 different things that happen in between there that are wrong to get to that conclusion. So I think from a legal standpoint, the Punta Gorda department has a lot of problems.
Criminally, based upon what you know, based upon the facts that have been made public, the chief has said they're not going to use real guns in any more training. The chief has taken complete ownership of this. However, criminally, you're a former prosecutor. Could this officer be charged?
Well, sure. I mean, you've got a couple different issues here. You have the criminal and then the civil, obviously. So on a criminal standpoint, you're dealing with just this individual officer and were his actions criminal. The only charge that would probably apply here would be an involuntary manslaughter charge. The problem with those charges is that they require extreme recklessness, basically. It's a willful and wanton disregard for safety, such as if you're on the 4th of July or New Year's Eve and you're firing your gun up in the air, that's a reckless behavior that has willful and wanton disregard for human life, because you know that bullet's going to come down, can strike somebody and they could die. Something along those lines would easily qualify. If you're talking about what's essentially here, I guess, a training accident, where maybe they didn't check the gun as carefully as they should have, maybe they shouldn't be using live guns regardless. Those may be decisions that are probably not correct when it comes to a training, but would they rise to the level of willful and wanton disregard and recklessness for human life? That's probably going to be tough. Is it possible? It all depends on the individual facts, which we don't know all the facts while we're sitting here. We don't know who loaded the gun. I mean, I know we have some general ideas. It was his firearm. It was supposed to have blanks, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's simply a training accident or a negligent misstep that resulted in his death, it's probably going to be difficult to get to a criminal charge. But again, it's all going to be fact specific. And if they believe, I know it's been turned over to FDLE, so if they believe that there was at least enough willful and wanton disregard for the safety of this librarian during this exercise, they could potentially be looking at a criminal charge, yeah.
What about the officers that knew? This had been a pattern in practice going on for 2 years. The chief said they'd run 12 people through it, and none of them were injured, which is kind of, I find that distasteful. That's like saying, look at all the people we haven't killed in our training and training accidents. What about the people who were aware that at some point this real firearm was going to be used?
Well, I don't think they would have any criminal responsibility, because the criminalness comes into the actual specific facts of that particular incident. It's like any other kind of training scenario that takes place, at the Anvil or whatever. There is such thing as just an accident. It's negligence that falls into the civil arena, but reaching the high threshold of beyond a reasonable doubt for criminal recklessness and wanton disregard, that's just a really high burden.
Civilly?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that there's going to be some civil liability here. I mean, the fact that they've done it so many times under the same scenario, they may think that helps them, but I think it actually hurts them, because it shows that they've been doing it wrong all along. There is literally no excuse to have a real firearm with civilians in a training program. It's probably not a good idea to even have it with law enforcement. And I mean, you've heard from a lot of law enforcement and military people, they don't even do it that way. So I don't know why they have this practice in the first place. I don't know why they're using a person who apparently doesn't have a certification to teach any kind of firearm training or be involved in something like this. It's also an individual who we find out has previous problems with law enforcement and being a law enforcement officer, et cetera. So this entire scenario was avoidable, and because there's negligence all along the line, I think there's definitely going to be a civil liability here.
There's a solution that they could have used, and it's something I used when I was a policeman, a simulator. Back then it was known as the FAT simulator. You have a scenario that plays out on a big screen. You have a electronic gun that shows when you shoot, where you shoot. You're told to interact with the scenarios. You're told to yell and scream. I know it used to get my blood pressure raising, and nobody gets hurt. If they wanted to show these civilians what it's like to be a cop, that simulator would have been perfect.
But that would be too expensive, Lee.
Right.
I would imagine that would be their excuse.
Exactly.
But I wonder how much expense this is going to cost.
It's going to be cheaper than the check that they're going to have to write, would be my guess.
Much cheaper. Some small agencies will combine and buy one of those simulators together and then move it around. Let all the
That's
officers
the joy
get
of it.
trained
You
on.
can.
Yeah.
And anything you can do to protect human life is minimal. I can't. Even in the military, you use blank adapters on your M4s, right? The little thing that goes on the end of it.
Right.
So even if it were to go off, it would mess that up. I mean, even the military doesn't aim real guns at people without making sure.
Do you see this as a gun issue, Mike, or do you see this as a training issue?
I see it as a training issue. It's not. I don't believe it's a gun issue. I just think it's a bonehead move that the guy didn't check. And the whole thing. I mean, I think about my mom. She's in her 70s. And would I want my mom to go to one of these things and have some guy pointing a real gun at her, even with blanks? No. I wouldn't.
No, there's just no reason for this scenario at all. Like you said, why are they doing it?
Yeah.
What lesson are they trying to teach 73-year-old librarians about being a law enforcement officer by having loud noises go off around their face? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they have this program. I don't understand why they did it the way that they did it. I don't understand why, if you're going to do that, they don't have the proper safety protocols and checks and double checks and triple checks. I don't understand any of this, but all of that put together is, I think, why they're going to have a really, really big problem.
I could not agree more. I asked for any kind of documentation on this class, any lesson plan. I think if there was a guy there, and we both, Officer Coel is not an instructor. If there was an instructor there, I think their credentials need to be pulled. And we'll be continuing to follow this case because it's playing out on a national stage, and it's here. Thanks, Jeff, for coming in.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough. How lucky are we to have him in the community here?
Anytime.
Great access.
Yeah.
Anytime.
God bless, long live the Republic, and keep your powder dry.